good artist knows how to tap into the five sentences to tell an effective story, with touch being one of the hardest to pull off. The second is sound. Sound design can make or break a film. If the soundtrack is poor or the dubbing is off, it can ruin the experience of an otherwise compelling film. But when used masterfully, it can evoke something deep within you, especially in genres that deal with tragedies or suspense. Before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Every new sub helps us achieve our goal and keeps us motivated to create new content. With that being said, I'm your host, Jamie, and here are 10 suspenseful films about sound. Number 1, A Quiet Place. Who knew Jim Halpert had it in him? That's right. Although actor John Krasinski rose to fame as the lovable Jim Halpert from NBC's hit mid-2000 sitcom The Office, he took his turn at directing in 2018. The result was Paramount's surprise smash hit, A Quiet Place. The film opened with rave reviews and a massive $50 million opening weekend in the US alone, and would end its run with a $340 million worldwide. A Quiet Place would go on to be one of the highest grossing and best reviewed horror films of modern time. It even landed on the American Film Institute's top 10 films of 2018. A Quiet Place follows the Abbott family well into what would appear to be some kind of dystopian nightmare. John Krasinski stars as Lee Abbott alongside his real-life wife, Emily Blunt, as his wife, Evelyn Abbott. So surprisingly, their chemistry is tangible. They feel like a genuine married couple. At the time of filming, Krasinski and Blunt were relatively new parents as well. This is partially what drew them to the project. Krasinski had enough input in the script that he also received a screenwriting credit. The film takes place after unknown creatures have wiped out most of humanity. They can't see but have incredible hearing. Since the Abbott daughter Reagan is deaf, the family knows American Sign Language, ASL. This gives them a huge advantage in this landscape. The use of sound and score is brilliant in A Quiet Place. Composer Marco Beltrami, who's most famous for his iconic scores on the first 3 Scream films, worked closely with the sound designers to fashion A Quiet Place's sublime score. The film is often just ambient noise, and even as something as light as stepping on gravel is deafening, with the score used sparingly and effectively. That combined with the taut sound design from Ethan Adal and Ethan Van der Rijn, audiences become acutely aware of sound and share the fears of the Abbott family. You can catch it on Fubo, Sling, Prime, Google Play, and Fandango. Number 2, Berberian Sound Studio. British filmmaker Peter Strickland's acclaimed sophomore film, Berberian Sound Studio, would be one of his most notable works. The film was written by Strickland along with co-writer Kefis Laroque and based off of a previous short film of his. Berberian Sound Studio was released in 2012 and met with positive critical reception. The film follows sound engineer Gilderoy, who is hired to work on a film called The Equestrian Vortex for a film company called Berberian. The film takes place in Rome in the 70s, and the picture he's working on turns out to be a giallo film. Giallo originated in Italy and were typically murder mysteries, characterized by gore and violence. Gilderoy is aghast, but a job is a job, so he goes along with it. Gilderoy is played by one of the most prolific British character actors ever, Toby Jones. Though for me growing up, I always knew him as the voice of Dobby the house elf from Harry Potter. The amount of other major franchises he's played in are the MCU, The Hunger Games, Jurassic World, even Doctor Who. There's a reason you call up Toby Jones, because he's a great actor who doesn't steal the limelight. In Berberian Sound Studio, Jones perfectly portrays a character being driven mad through designing sound, working on crafting the sounds of brutal murders on film causes him to lose touch with reality. Any artist who's worked on a project understands this. Anyone who's dealt with the repetition and tedium of toil will understand this. But you can stream Barbarian Sound Studio on Sling, AMC Plus, Prime, Google Play, and Fandango. Number 3, Blowout. When people talk about iconic director Brian De Palma's greatest films, they most certainly mention Carrie, Dressed to Kill, and Scarface. Among that list should also include his brilliant Hitchcockian film, Blowout. And when I say Hitchcockian, I mean in themes, suspense, and technical finesse. Upon its release, Blowout received widespread acclaim, but was ultimately a box office failure. Luckily, over time, it's garnered some of the attention it deserves. The film follows Jack Terry, a sound technician and a Foley artist, whose resume includes cheap slasher flicks. While searching for and recording new sounds, he records a car that's tire blows out and drives off a bridge. He dives in to save a girl, played by Nancy Allen, but is unable to save the other passengers. After going over his audio recording, he discovers that the crash was not an accident, but a murder. Jack Terry is played by John Travolta, who rose to prominence with roles like Saturday Night Fever and one of my personal favorites, Grease. Veteran actor John Lithgow also gives a perfectly menacing performance as the nefarious Burke. Jack Terry's character is laid back and clever, but also has a keen sense of hearing, making him very good at his profession. One of the Hitchcock techniques used to place the audience into Jack's perspective includes the classic split diopter shot, which involves a lens attachment that lets foreground and background be in focus simultaneously. This is paired with an increase in audio volume on whatever the subject Jack is listening to. De Palma based Blowout off the Italian filmmaker Michelangelo Antonioni's 1968 film Blow Up, which uses the same concept with photography. However, you can stream De Palma's masterpiece on Tubi, Pluto, Fellow, Sling, MGM Plus, Prime, Google Play, and Fandango. Number 4, Hush. I'm here to praise horror writer-director Mike Flanagan whenever I can. When you mention Alfred Hitchcock, George A. Romero, Wes Craven, or John Carpenter, Mike Flanagan should be mentioned alongside these titans of terror. Flanagan's 2016 Hush is a superbly crafted thriller with a unique premise. Flanagan conceived this screenplay with actress Kate Siegel, where the two crafted fireworks, which is probably why they would be wed the same year. Siegel is a bona fide silver screen scream queen, and Flanagan is a king of suspense. Hush follows a deaf-mute writer, Maddie Young, as she leaves New York to reside in a secluded cabin in a forest where she can write her next book. Siegel delivers a superb and sympathetic performance as she's stalked by a masked killer. Unable to hear the particularly intelligent and cruel killer, he takes his time, and the suspense comes in the form of dramatic tension. The audience is let in on the killer's activity while we're praying Maddie sees him. We are also immersed, at least to some extent, in Maddie's perspective with the use of sound, or in this case, the absence of. Although Hush received acclaim, there have been detractors of the film from the deaf community. They argue that not hiring a deaf actor for Maddie's role took away from the authenticity. Her mannerisms weren't quite accurate. ASL was used inconsistently, and the film relies on deaf stereotypes, which are all fair arguments. And it's important that Hush creates this discourse. Representation matters. But you can catch Hush on Tubi, Plex, Fellow, AMC Plus, Sling, Prime, Fandango, and Google Play. Number 5, Pontypool. Pontypool is a Canadian psychological horror film that revolves around a shock jock radio DJ named Grant Mazey, who works at the local radio station in Pontypool, Ontario. Pontypool is based on the 1995 novel Pontypool Changes Everything, which is actually the second novel in Tony Burgess' Pontypool trilogy. Burgess would adapt his novel into the screenplay for Pontypool as well. Novels and screenplays are of different enough formats with different goals, but Burgess definitely wrote a pretty good script. The film premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival in 2008, before its official March 2009 release. In Pontypool, Grant Mazey, as well as his technical assistant Laurel Ann, have to deliver a breaking news story from Sydney, the station manager. The film is a tense, well-crafted thriller. Basically, the radio station is receiving updates of horrifying events happening in real time. I kind of want you to experience this for yourself. But imagine a shooting and someone called into a radio station that was reporting it live. Or think of the 9/11 phone calls made in New York City on September 11, 2001. What you're hearing from people over the radio leaves a lot to the imagination. For those of you who want to see some of the action, you'll get plenty of that too as the film progresses. The build-up is to a superb and feels authentic, and you can catch it on Prime or Philo. Number 6, The Conversation. The 70s film scene was all about new Hollywood directors, and one of them was iconic filmmaker Francis Ford Coppola. He made films throughout the 60s, but it was his 1972 Best Picture, The Godfather, that solidified his status amongst the filmmaking elite. In 1974, he released another masterpiece, The Conversation, that has become a staple when learning about suspense and sound design. The film follows audio specialist and surveillance expert Harry Cole, played by the late Oscar-winning actor Gene Hackman, who was recently hired for a private job. He's hired to record a couple by an elusive figure known as the director. You can read into that if you will. Harry and his surveillance team end up recording things that alludes to a murder. This makes Harry nervous, and he attempts to deliver the recordings and be done with it. It was very intentional that Coppola created this character to be ironically himself, very private. He too realizes that he is being bugged, and the film really evokes a sense of paranoia throughout. The Conversation would have been, and actually is, particularly topical at the time as the US was still reeling from the Watergate scandal. That incident involved Nixon breaking into the DNC and bugging it. This led to Nixon doing the honorable thing, acknowledging his corruption and resigning. The Conversation was up for Best Picture and Screenplay, but ultimately went to another Coppola joint, The Godfather Part 2. Sound designer Walter Murch was also nominated for his work on The Conversation. He nabbed a nod for Best Sound, but lost to Ronald Pierce and Melvin Metcalf Sr. for their work on the disaster film Earthquake. Murch would eventually get his Academy Award for sound mixing for Coppola's Apocalypse Now, though. And you can catch The Conversation over on Prime, Google Play, and Fandango. Number 7, Flux Gourmet. The black comedy Flux Gourmet is a German, English, and Greek film that was written and directed by British filmmaker Peter Strickland, who directed another sound-centric film, Barbarian Sound Studio, in 2013. Flux Gourmet was first released at Berlin Film Festival on February 11, 2022. It revolves around a culinary art institute full of esoteric, vindictive even, art snobs. It stars Asa Butterfield, Gwendolyn Christie, Richard Bremer, and Fatma Mohammed. Miss Mohammed is a Strickland regular who's appeared in all 5 of his films. Mainstream audiences should also recognize Gwendolyn Christie, as she played badass Brienne of Tarth on Game of Thrones. Sound in Flux Gourmet is used for what boils down to experimental culinary ASMR. It's intriguing as it is unnerving, because it's not satisfying sounds of food sizzling and so forth, but things like squelching mixed with chainsaws and whatnot. Sound is used to assault the senses and even enhance the growing tension between the artists. And you can watch it on Shudder, Sling, AMC+, Philo, Prime, Google Play, and Fandango. Number 8, Don't Breathe. Uruguayan filmmaker Fede Alvarez made his debut with the beautifully macabre, blood-soaked reboot of The Evil Dead in 2013. Just Evil Dead. While it didn't quite live up to the fan expectations, it received warm critical reception. And while I agree it never quite hit the kinetic batshit heights of Sam Raimi's Evil Dead 2, I enjoyed the film and even its more serious tone. That being said, Fede Alvarez showcased his stellar direction with his next film in 2016. Don't Breathe follows 3 college-aged petty thieves who make their money casing homes and robbing their owners of various valuables. The lead, Rocky, is doing it for her younger sister. She wants to get enough money to head to California and escape an alcoholic mother and abusive boyfriend. Rocky is a sympathetic Picaro, if you will. She is played by understated actress Jane Levy, who is honestly part of the draw for me seeing this and Evil Dead. So Rocky and her team, Alex and Money, catch word of an old blind man who stowed away something like $300,000. They figure he's old, an easy target. Little do they know, he's a Gulf War veteran with keen hearing and lethal survival skills. Stephen Lang, who plays the blind man Norman Nordstrom, is great at playing militant military men, as he also did in James Cameron's Avatar. Don't Breathe is taut and tense with exceptional performances from Lang, and the sound design for Don't Breathe plays immense importance, creating as much tension as the action and stellar editing. You can stream it on Starz, Sling, Philo, Prime, Fandango, and Google Play. Number 9. Sound of Violence. The Finnish-American film The Sound of Silence premiered at the South by Southwest Festival in March of 2021. It was given a simultaneous on-demand and limited theatrical release in May of the same year, given we were still in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. Paris-born director Alex Norris based Sound of Violence on his own 2018 short film Conductor. Sound of Violence starts the criminally underrated Jasmine Savoy Brown, who many of us were introduced to in HBO's mind-blowing philosophical series, The Leftovers. In the film, Jasmine Savoy Brown plays Alexis, who was once deaf. After bashing her father's skull in with a meat mallet when she was 10, that intense sound brought her hearing back. I should note, the father was abusive and it was in self-defense, but it gave her her first taste of bloodlust. She was able to mostly heal her hearing through music and lead a relatively normal life as a musician and teacher. Alexis also has a condition in which sounds also created other physical sensations. It's an actual condition called synesthesia, in which certain signals in the brain fire to the wrong area. So it's possible to hear in color, or in Alexis's case, she also feels intense physical sensations with the right loud noise. Sometimes her hearing fades or completely disappears for moments, and that sound design is fashioned in a way that the audience experiences. It adds a layer of tension. Plus, coupled with Savoy Brown's stellar, poignant performance, the viewer will sympathize, at least initially, with someone who's becoming a serial killer. Once Alexis goes completely off the rails, it's her victims we start feeling scared for. But you can see The Sound of Violence for yourself on Tubi, Plex, Pluto, Sling, Fubu, Prime, Fandango, and Google Play. Number 10. Gravity. Gravity was the best film of 2013, and the Academy Awards can fight me on that. Kidding. About the fighting, not about Gravity. We see Sandra Bullock as Dr. Ryan Stone and internet zaddy George Clooney playing seasoned astronaut Mike Kowalski as they're working to add upgrades to the Hubble telescope when they are bombarded with debris, and their ship, the Explorer, is damaged, and crew is killed. This sets off a chain of events that lead them on a journey of struggle and survival to return to Earth. Gravity is directed by one of the most brilliant living directors, Alfonso Cuarón. His resume includes Y Tu Mamá También, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Children of Men, and Roma. Not only are his films all stunning technical achievements, their exploration of philosophical themes and the human conditioning is enlightening. Gravity is no different in that regard. Cuarón wrote the screenplay with his brother Jonas and has been praised for a lot of its scientific accuracies in physics and sound. Sound plays such an important role in the film as there is no sound in space. This means that the characters have to navigate the cold depths of space while avoiding destruction and debris they can't hear. Despite the spiritual and emotional struggle the survivors face, the film is ultimately a beautiful and cathartic experience. And Bullock's tour de force performance is really a conduit for the audience to help feel what Dr. Ryan does. And you can experience Gravity on Google Play, Fandango, and Prime. Thanks for checking out the video. Did we leave any films off the list? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to tap that bell icon to stay up to date with our latest releases. You can reach out to us on Twitter or X at StudiosFat, or chat with us on Discord, linked below. We're also now on Blue Sky. You can find us at studiosfat.bsky.social, which will also link below. If you're really enjoying our content and want to help support us, click that join button for exclusive content, rewards, and perks. Make sure to check out our very own merch store located at batninja.shop. All proceeds go towards our next film project, so we'd greatly appreciate it. I've been your host, Jamie. Thanks again and take care.